Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to episode number 11 of Inside Out. My guest tonight is one who's been an ideal role model. In Arthashastra, Chanakya had written, you need to have 20 qualities to succeed in any undertaking. If Chanakya were to write that book in recent years, or if we were to update it, he would replace that whole segment with just three words: emulate Rahul Dravid. It's my pleasure to welcome Rahul Dravid. Rahul, welcome to you, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, WE. Lovely to see you and nice to be on the show.
Yes, in Bangalore, things are not looking good in recent times. There's been a spurt in numbers. Cause for concern?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think it's one of those things where we were priding ourselves a little bit and we were patting ourselves on the back. We had, till about almost 2-3 weeks ago, the cases were about 150, 160 in the city, and, things were looking like they were going back to normal. But again, as we've seen with this virus, it's so contagious and it's so unpredictable. As soon as things opened up a little bit, the last 3 weeks have seen nearly over 1,000 cases every day. So, yeah, the government's put in another lockdown from this evening, in fact, for a week, which is going to be a strict and complete lockdown. So, really hoping things improve. But yeah, it's a really challenging time, WE, as you've seen in Chennai and all over the country. And I think it's just the uncertainty about the virus. So I think that's been the one that's where I think it's confusing people, it's making it hard for people to plan. And it just doesn't seem, when the sort of there's a light, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's a pretty long one at the moment. Yeah, like I was saying, the cases have been rising, so it's so the government's coming to sort of having a bit of a lockdown from this evening, in fact, for a week, and really hope things improve after that all over the world, in fact, and all over the country. But it's tricky and challenging times. It's hard times. It's not easy to plan. It's not easy to prepare. It's been something that I think, I don't know, we've probably never had to deal with, and our parents' generation has probably never had to deal with it. I think you have to go back almost 100 years, to the bubonic plague to think about something that affected the world as this has. Yeah.
Come on, Rahul. You spent hours and hours on a 22-yard strip and at home with family now. Staying at home during this lockdown time shouldn't have been a problem for you, was it?
Well, I had, I used to practice. I practiced very hard to play in those 22 yards, and we practiced a lot and we played a lot. I'm not sure I've ever practiced staying at home so much. From the age of 14. So as you know, W, once we start traveling as cricketers, literally from under 15, you start traveling, you go away with your teammates, that becomes your life. It's a lifestyle. I think being a cricketer is really a lifestyle because it's time away from home, it's flights, it's train journeys, it's bus journeys, yes, I mean, you love coming back home and you enjoy that. But this is the longest I've ever stayed at home, I think, without actually taking a flight or a train or a bus or something like that and being here. So I think it's been great. I must admit, it's been really nice, and it's been great, and it's been lovely to be able to connect with my kids. But it's also different because I think we're sort of used to being with them on holidays, but this is like it's tough for the children also because they've been at home and not much to do and a lot of online learning and online schooling. And not a lot of outdoor activities. So, that doesn't make it easy. And I think at some point, I think my wife's kind of, okay, when are you going to go out next?
All of us are in the same boat, Rahul. I assure you about that. Your powers of concentration were remarkable. Was it something inherent or can it be developed?
So I think a little bit of it. I certainly think that it can be developed and it can be worked on, and it must be worked on. I think if you want to be a successful cricketer or successful at anything, I think being able to concentrate and being able to stay focused, during that length of time in which you're required to be focused. When in cricket, it's sometimes a very short time in batting, and then you learn to switch off and then switch on back again. But being able to sort of stay in the moment or be focused or play that one ball at a time is a very, very important skill. And it certainly can be developed. There's no doubt that I was a little bit lucky, I must admit, that inherently my nature has been someone who's I've always sort of had a certain ability to be able to sort of concentrate, and I've not been a very extroverted person even growing up as a kid. was a little bit of an introvert. So I wasn't, one of those hyperactive kind of kids. So I had that ability to stay calm and sort of stay balanced. But no, I mean, that's, I think over the years, playing the game, watching other people play the game, you sort of realize that you've got to be able to work on it. You've got to be able to develop it and be able to have a bit of confidence in it under extreme pressure. I think it's one thing to be able to do it, when you're sitting down or lying down or in the comfort of an AC room, but being able to trust it and being able to execute it under pressure when the heat is on in the middle of a game, when the pressure is on you, the expectation is on, you're facing a really challenging spell of bowling, to be able to switch back on and keep that focus and do those simple routines, I think requires practice. And it's something that over the years I kind of learned just using it in the nets, dedicating a bit of time to do it in the nets. And then I think someone sort of gave me some very good advice as a youngster. He said that the best way to learn how to concentrate, or the best way to learn how to be able to bat for a long time, is to be able to do it when you have the opportunity in the middle. So don't throw away an opportunity when you're batting in the middle. Oh, I've got 100, or I've got a big score now. I'm set, or I'm set for the next few games. I don't need to worry about it. But use it as a good opportunity to learn how to concentrate or to bat for long periods of time. And I think it's something that will help you as you go on. So yeah, so it definitely can be developed, and it's something I did work on. Obviously, having, like I said earlier, maybe starting off on a slightly on the front foot with just my personality and just some inherent genetic advantages, maybe.
This focusing and concentrating bit, can you overdo it at times? Is it possible?
Uh, yeah, I think you can become too intense. There's no doubt about it, and I think I fell into that trap as a young boy myself. So I think understanding that focusing and concentration, especially in a thing like in batting, it doesn't mean that you have to be switched on all the time. You have to, in fact, rather than someone saying that I need to be focused, I think learning that ability to switch on and switch off, obviously between balls or when you're playing, and even being able to switch on and switch off the field, I think is a very, very important skill. Because if you sort of stay switched on all the time and you're too intense all the time, it drains you of so much of your mental energy. And then when you need the mental energy, when you need to play, you probably won't have any of it because you'll be so tired mentally and drained mentally. So being able to switch off the field was very important, and that's something I really had to learn because again, I was quite an intense person, and and like a lot of young people, desperate to do well, very keen to do well, and then sort of didn't learn the art for till a long time of realizing that worrying about something off the field just because I've had a bad day or not done well, worrying about it was not going to help my cricket. Learning from what happened on the day is something, and you can spend time reflecting and learning, and you must do that, and you have to do that if you want to improve, because you're constantly looking to learn and improve and get better. But worrying about it and keeping it in your head all the time, in fact, it was just draining you out. So when you went back to bat the next day or in the next match, it's just all built up and you just didn't have that energy. So that's something actually I actually had to really learn how to do. And things like reading, I actually figured out that something like reading, I was not a very big reader when I was in school or, even in my early days in college. It's actually only after I started sort of playing cricket, first class cricket, and a little bit of mostly international cricket, that I actually started this habit of reading, because I realized that on flights or there's so much of time as cricketers which is spent not doing a lot. You're on flights, you're in buses, you're sometimes just you have the whole afternoon free or the evening free, and you could just be worrying so much at that point of time. Rather than that, I just realized that if I was reading a good book or if I was reading something I was enjoying, my mind sort of went away from the worry and was in the book. And I sort of use that as something as a way to really relax. Other people use movies. Some people find music. I could never. I always found when I was sort of trying to watch a movie, I was still thinking about the cricket. I'd be watching the movie, but my mind would still be having those pictures about the cricket. So I found that for me, books work better than movies. I know a lot of other people who find movies better or music better or just chilling out with friends better. So I think what's important is you need to figure out what really works for you, and just understanding the criticality of ensuring and knowing when to switch off, I think was a big lesson and something I learned um, obviously through my own experiences. And a big experience for me was playing county cricket. I was sort of 26 and played a bit of international cricket when I played county cricket in Kent in 2000. And I think just being in a different dressing room and a different environment taught me a lot, because I sort of looked around a lot of those the young my colleagues in England, guys who were playing from the Kent dressing room, and I kind of really admired the way that they were able to actually switch off after their innings or after the game, and go out to the pub and have a drink and socialize, and things that I was never doing as a Ranji Trophy player, because I was just went back and you're still thinking about cricket. And when I saw that, I sort of realized that this was a much better way and a much more relaxed way to play the game. And I think that experience really helped me, because it sort of from then on, for the next 7, 8, 9 years, I had probably the best years of my career. And a large part of that was learning this ability to kind of switch off.
How did you manage this as a student? You obviously were a good student.
So you mean in my studies, or you're just saying in terms of as a
in your studies when you're before playing international cricket, in your studies, how did you manage this concentration and focusing?
So I mean, for someone like me, once I started playing a lot of cricket, sort of got into the first class team when I was in 12th standard, and after that, I never really had much time to be actually able to go to college and attend classes as normal kids would do. So we would kind of rely on the notes, and you would rely on your friends to sort of mark out stuff in the textbooks for you and tell you what is important and what is relevant and what is likely to come. And I think we were a bit lucky in those days, as in there wasn't as much cricket as say some of the youngsters I see playing today. So typically, your cricket season, even if you played the Ranji Trophy, unless you sort of went into the final of the Ranji Trophy, would kind of finish around January, January sometimes into February, and it gave you sort of the March, April, May. Our exams would generally at that time of the year, and college exams would always be in sort of May, June. So you had a couple of months at the back end to be able to really study. And I remember in times like that, then I would really switch off from the cricket and maybe keep my fitness going and still go for the odd run or just go to the gym once in a while. But I would maybe take a break from cricket and really focus on the studies. So again, it is. I mean, I can't. When I say good student, I was good in terms of maybe some other sportsmen, but I was certainly not. I was certainly not among the top. The top 10 percentile of the class, or in the 90th percentile. So I think you have to be realistic as a cricketer. You have to realize, that yes, you have lost a lot of time, and you're not going to be able to compete with, say, some of the best students in your class, which is fine because you're doing another skill and you're doing something equally demanding, in fact, if not more, and you're working really hard at what you're doing. But just sort of being able to switch back into studies, and I think understanding the importance of it. I actually also thought it was a good way for me to switch off, like I said, at the end of a season, to be able to hit the books, take my mind off cricket for a couple of months, and use that concentration sometimes when you were able to get back into the cricket. So if you can concentrate on accountancy, you can certainly concentrate when you're playing cricket. or income tax or income tax law. Jeez.
Okay. So. I get it. You chose coaching after you went into the media and you did other things after quitting from cricket. You finally gravitated towards coaching. Any specific reason? Does it give you more satisfaction now?
So after I finished, sort of there were quite a few options, and I wasn't necessarily sure what to do. And again, I think it was Kapil Dev who gave me this advice. Actually, I was, towards coming to the end of my career, and Kapil, in fact, told me, bumped into him somewhere, and he said, Rahul, he says, don't commit to doing anything straight away. Go out and spend a few years just exploring and doing different things, and see what you really like. And I thought it was good advice. So I was also a little fortunate that at the back end of my career, I was already in a sort of captain coach kind of role with the Rajasthan Royals. So I was already getting into the sort of management side of things at the Rajasthan Royals in my last couple of years of the IPL, I had moved to the Royals, and they wanted me to take more of a, not only be a captain, but also be involved in a little bit of the off-field stuff, the auctions, some of the management of the team. So I think I was getting a little bit of a taste of that and understanding how that works and how that functions. So I was lucky there that I was sort of, already playing a sort of coaching leadership kind of role towards the back end of my career. And like you said, then I did the media for a couple of years, and then I was also doing a little bit of the talking circuit and a few of my advertisements and few of the endorsements that I do. So yeah, there were a few things that I did for a couple of years, and I sort of eventually. I think I like doing the commentary. Don't get me wrong. I like the media and I liked it. I liked the fact that you could really have a good seat in the house and you get to watch some great cricket. But like you said, I mean, I think the thing that gave me the most satisfaction was really being involved in the game and being connected with the boys that you sort of. I sometimes felt a little disconnected as a media person. I mean, you commentated on a game and then you kind of left the venue, and it just didn't seem like a connection with the result, or they didn't seem any connection with the game. And I kind of really liked the coaching side of things, and I got sort of involved in that. The opportunity came up to do some coaching with India A and under 19, and I said, look, this is a good opportunity, good place to start, and took it up, and I've really enjoyed it since. So yeah, so I just feel sort of a lot more satisfying to be involved in the coaching side of things. And also I think it is becoming a younger man's game. The coaching side of things, it is more and more, a lot of more younger people are getting into it, and I think with the media and other stuff, that the other opportunities that are there, you can always do them a little bit later on. So yeah, so for now, really enjoyed the coaching, and especially the developmental side of the coaching where I've been involved in, whether it's been the India A or the under 19 or the NCA now. Just that pathways developmental side, I think it's really given me the opportunity to actually work with a lot of the players without having to worry about the immediate results, which I think is a really nice space for me to work in, and I kind of enjoy that. Allows you to look at the bigger picture, which I think is a lot of fun.
You brought in a perspective into the system, that of concentrating on long-term goals, and winning is not the thing at the junior level.
Yeah, so again, this came up a little bit with my own experiences at India A, and a little bit with just talking to a lot of the players who had played at India A and who were playing. And I think a lot of them, when you talk to them about their junior cricket or, how they grew up in India, and I was having this conversation with quite a few of them when I started coaching. And a lot of them didn't have very good experiences at the under 19 level. A lot of them would have this complaint that, yeah, we went on the tour, but, we never got a chance to play. We went on the full trip. People told me I was on 2 tours with an under 19 team. I obviously won't mention the names of the coaches or the teams, but they gave me 1 match to play in which I batted at number 6, and then I was never played again because the team was desperate to win every single match, or it was important to win. And I think that kind of struck a chord with me, because you start then thinking that, well, that's that, in the sense that you got to make that experience a good one for whoever comes in, whether it's an under 19 player or an India A player. And I was also, always tell this to some of the selectors as well. I said that, a lot of these boys who get into our A teams, they perform the whole year and they've had a really successful year, which is exactly why you've picked them in the team. And now if we don't give them an opportunity, or if we don't give them a decent run in the games that we have, they have to go back all the way and start from scratch again and put in those same performances, which I think was, just seemed a little bit unfair to me. And so, yeah, so I've tried as much as possible. We've tried to ensure that, whenever people come on our A tours, irrespective of, whether we're 1-0 down or 2-0 down, or, we need to win, we ensure that we rotate the squads, we give everyone opportunities. Even at the under 19 level, one of the things I think we kind of realized in looking at some of the stats was that the same people kept getting this opportunities over and over again. And for me, that felt very unfair at an under 19 level. That meant that you're putting all your eggs in one basket, in actually in a very small basket. You're saying that it's if you're going to focus only on 15 or 20 players at the under 19 level and give them all the opportunities, what you're saying is that this 14 or 15 is the one that's going to go on and play for India. And I think that's, as we know, at the under 19 level, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's so many people develop a little bit later, they mature a bit later. Some boys are stronger than the others at 19 or 18, so they definitely look better or they perform better. But 2 or 3 years down the line, someone who's not as strong but has more talent has caught up with the other person. So we decided to broaden that group and say, okay, we'll ensure that people don't play more than one World Cup. We've been lucky over the last year or so that we were able to give nearly 45 to 50 players an opportunity to play for India. And it's not only about playing, it's about getting that exposure to the NCA, getting the exposure to good coaches, getting the opportunity to interact with good physios, good trainers. So it's not just 15, 20 boys getting that opportunity. It's now 45, 50 boys who get that opportunity. So it broadens the pool and it sort of gives us a better chance, I think, at finding some successful players for India in the long run, which is, I guess, which is eventually all that we want to do, right? We want to produce players who play for India. It's not, not many people remember who won World Cups or what's the results in under 19 games. So it's, and I think, it's not just me. I know that, it's like I sometimes am the figurehead of it, but credit for this should also go to a lot of the selectors. I think a lot of the senior selectors and the junior selection committees that I've worked with, whether it's been the MSK-led committee or Ashish Kapoor and his team here, Venki was there before that. I think all of them have bought into that. It's not easy for selectors as well because they're looking for sometimes results, immediately, and sometimes they're under pressure for the teams that they pick. But I've been glad to say that, I've enjoyed working with these selection committees because they've really bought into this and they respect it. And sometimes even if results don't go our way, they're happy to see the bigger picture, which is really great.
This rotation that you brought into the A side and the 19th side, at least at the A level, it would have got rid of a bit of insecurity.
Yeah, it does give people a lot of opportunities. It does give people opportunities, and they know that they are like going on a tour. That you're going to guaranteed you're going to get some games, you're going to get opportunities. Also, the fact that we've been able to increase our A level 18 programs, not that there's only one tour a year now. We at least try and have 2 overseas tours and 2 India tours. Obviously, this year is very different, and we've lost this year, so it's going to be disappointing for a lot of them. But at least we try and have 3, if not 4 tours of India A in a year. In that case, then all these boys who perform, they know that they're going to get a fair and a good opportunity to push for the India team, because there's nothing more frustrating. And I think players of your generation and a little bit of us growing up, you know it better than anyone else, WB. You perform so well right through the Ranji season and do everything you can, and you'd get one Irani game or you'd get one Duleep Trophy game to be able to show your skills, and you have a bad day or you have a bad game, and it's gone, and you have to start all over again. And as we know, that's not easy. It's not easy to do that. But when you're doing well, if you're given more opportunities, who knows where that can take you. And we've seen that with the recent results. People like Hanuma Vihari and Shreyas Iyer and Manish Pandey, and even some of the bowlers, whether it's been Siraj and Saini and Shardul Thakur, and a lot of these boys coming through, have had that opportunity and have been able to show the selectors that, hey, look, we pick us, we're there and we can perform at this level.
Have you ever gone through a phase of insecurity? How did you manage it, if you did?
Oh, I have. I've gone through many phases of insecurity. I think growing up as a young cricketer in India is not easy. There's a lot of competition, and especially in the time that I grew up in, where there was only the Ranji Trophy and there was only the Ranji Trophy and there was the Indian team. There was no IPL and even this kind of revenue or the money in Ranji Trophy was so poor that there was always that constant challenge, because you'd given up a career in studies, and which, like you said, I was not bad at studies, so I could have easily gone on to potentially do an MBA or a CA, which I kind of forego to have a career in cricket. And if the cricket then sort of didn't work out, then you sort of didn't have too much to fall back on. So I think there was that level of insecurity at that age, especially growing up. So which actually helps me a lot in sometimes working with a lot of these younger players, because I can identify with some of their challenges and some of the insecurities that they go through, and how things like security then helps at that stage when you know you're going to get opportunities or people trust you and give you games. I think things like that certainly do help a lot of these younger players. Again, just for me, I think even through my international career, there have been phases. I was dropped from the one-day team in '98. I had to fight my way back in, spend a year away from the game. So there were certain insecurities as well then, whether I'm a good enough one-day player or not. And because I had grown up being a test, wanting to be a test player and being coached to be a test player, hit the ball on the ground, don't hit it in the air, that kind of coaching. So, sort of, you worried whether you had the skills to be able to do it. For me, obviously, I think a lot of the ways to deal with insecurity was to sort of try and control what I could control. I think some of the things you realize when you get insecure about are things that are actually beyond your control. And you start worrying about things that you cannot control, selections, sometimes even success or failure is sometimes beyond your control. But what is in your control really is the effort, is just the hard work that you put in, is your ability to switch on and switch off, your ability to concentrate, whether it's your ability to stay balanced, whether you succeed, whether you fail. I think these are kind of things that you can control. Your mindset, how positive you are even in the difficult times. And I think just sort of focusing on those things that I could control and kind of ignoring stuff that I couldn't control was certainly something that definitely helped me. But yeah, to answer your question, I think there's a certain amount of anxiety involved in this sport. I think it's just something you have to experience, and you will, and you have to accept it, and you have to say it's part and parcel of what I do. Sometimes there's no magic formula or no magic solution to it. Sometimes being anxious or being nervous is a good thing. That means that you care. That means that you are, it matters to you. Because if you do something that doesn't matter to you, you're not nervous or you're not anxious about it. So I think in a way, sometimes, if you think about it in that sense, that, hey, I'm anxious and I'm nervous, that's a good thing because I care about this. I care deeply about it. Of course, you don't want it to get to a point where it starts hampering your performances and, it's not, doesn't help you. So yeah, again, small things like maybe stuff like meditation off the field is again something that helped me calm my nerves off the field. Something I did a little bit when I felt a little anxious. So I learned how to meditate. So I used to meditate when I was playing. I used to meditate every morning and evening for 15 minutes, just more as a life skill, not as anything else, but just as a life skill to help me kind of stay relaxed and stay calm. So yeah, the different things that you sort of you would use when you're anxious or you're nervous, but I think in time you realize everything that you do, there is going to be certain anxiety and certain nervousness. I mean, now just watching the under-19s or watching the India A players play, I get nervous. I don't know about you coaching. I'm sure and as you would know, right? I mean, it's now you can't even do anything about it. You just have to hope that other people do something, which is even tougher sometimes. So it's. Yeah.
That's part of the job. You have an image of one who's focused, studious, and perhaps even serious. But I know you like to have a laugh.
Yeah. So I look. So I'm not an extrovert. I'm not a life of a party. But no, I do like to have a laugh. I am a little more chilled out than I think people give me credit for, or the impression that I create. So no, I love having a laugh, and I enjoy time with friends. And I was actually never a person who sat in the room, and I was never a Mr. Room Service on tours. I loved going out. I loved sort of going out to bookshops or movies or just exploring different cities that I went to. So yeah, you very rarely, even on an international tour, I know a lot of people who'd like to sit in the room and order room service at the end of a match. So even during a test match, unless I was very tired and I just didn't have the mood to go out, I would like to go out every evening and just go out, even try and pull somebody along, and even if it meant going out for dinner down to the coffee shop in the hotel, I would much prefer that than sitting in the room. So yeah, so no, I'm not that thing. But yeah, you won't see me dancing in the middle of the dance floor at the party. That you won't see. But no, yeah, no, not as serious as people sometimes think. Because yeah, just quiet. I'm quiet. I mean, certainly I'm a quieter person.
2 years ago, the under 19 boys gave you the works on your birthday in New Zealand. That must have thrilled them a bit, messing about with Rahul, Dravid, the legend.
Yeah, so that's I guess one of the challenges that I've faced. I mean, people ask me what are the challenges I faced as a coach is, I think one of my challenges has been the fact that my reputation, obviously, of being I don't think of it that way, but there's no running away from the fact that I've built a reputation as a cricketer. I played for a long time. I sort of played the game, and I come in, and there's that sometimes you have to build that rapport, because there is a certain level, especially with the younger boys, they can get a bit intimidated by you and your name and who you are, and they probably watched you on television as kids growing up. And I think you have to break that barrier and break that ice, and it takes time. I mean, every year I always say this. When I started with both the batches that I coached right through, you start with the batch, and they're a bit nervous, they're a bit hesitant. And in about 6-8 months time or a year's time, after you've been with them on a few tours, you can get to a point where they relax with you and they have fun, and I think that's where you want to get to. They are able to break that ice, and they're able to open up to you about various things, not necessarily cricket, and so that's nice. Yeah. So I think I think with that bunch of boys, it was a great bunch of boys to coach with and work with, and you get to the point wherein they're comfortable enough to smash your face with cake and have a laugh, and I know you're not going to get upset about it, but yeah, I think that's been one of the challenges for me, but also a great learning for me of how to be able to break that ice with young people and young players and make them comfortable around you, and I think that's been a really satisfying part of my coaching journey. Just some of the relationships I've built with people who are of a completely different generation to what I am. Probably some of them have probably I've made a lot of them I made my debut even before they are born. So yeah, so it's they grow up sort of a little bit intimidated at times, sort of initially when they come in, but if you can get them to laugh and joke with you at the end of it, then it's satisfying. It's a satisfying feeling, because you learn a lot from a lot of these young boys as well.
What is Rahul Dravid as a parent? What is he like?
I don't know. You should ask my children. I don't know. I like to think I'm okay. I'm not. I'm a bit chilled out, but it's a hard one. Yeah. What am I like? So I think I'm a little bit more relaxed about stuff than my wife would like me to be about certain things. things like studies. So I always equate their marks with my marks, and they do much better than me. But my wife expects them to equate it to her marks, which are pretty high. So it's so we have that thing. No, but look, I just enjoy being with my kids, and it's nice. It's really been nice to be able to, and they're sort of growing up, and so nice to be able to have some conversations with them, and just to watch them grow. They play a bit of sport, which is really nice. So they're playing sport, and to be I don't get overly involved in it, but yeah, I'm there. I go and watch a few of their games once in a while, as and when I can, just to see how they're playing, and they don't seem to mind, so which is a good thing. Normally sometimes if they tell me no, we don't want you to come, then probably won't go, but they never seem to say that, so it's okay, it's cool. Try not to coach them too much.
The time is not far off when your boys start saying, Daddy, this generation thinks are done differently. Are you ready for it?
You have to. I'll come to you for advice. My son is just my son is just 14, and he's just getting into those teenage years. So I'm going to come to you for advice on how to handle it.
Your reading habit is still intact. What are the genres you read of late?
So I mean, some little bit of fiction at times, a little bit of non-fiction mostly. So of late, obviously, over the last couple of years, I've been trying to read quite a bit of stuff around coaching and different sort of books around just coaching and how sort of talent identification, performances, books like that, which a lot of interesting stuff nowadays. A lot of interesting stuff on the net, actually. I think that's one of the things that's really changed. There's so much of material, so much of knowledge on the net. Whether it's through books, or whether it's through blogs, or whether it's through articles that you find nowadays. I think there's so much more information. I think sometimes there's an information overload, to be honest. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and yeah, so a little bit more, I'd say, around just coaching and talent ID and talent performance. How do you get the best out of young players, young people? What's happening in different sports? It's always interesting to read, from my perspective, what happens, say, in soccer, or even in baseball and sports like that. That probably a little bit more advanced than, say, cricket, in terms of where they've gone in identifying and sort of getting the best out of young people, and they've been through that pathway a lot more, and in a lot more sort of scientific and documented manner. So it's quite interesting to see how they've gone about it, and a lot of things we can sometimes take from them. Some of it obviously is not relevant to our sport and our environment, really.
You've been quoted somewhere as saying that you failed more than you succeeded. What exactly is success according to you?
Geez, success is just being the best you can be. For me, that's it. I think, in the end of the day, success is not about, I don't know, you can't equate success with, for me at least personally, it's not about number of runs or wickets or things like that. I think if you sort of sit back in your career and say, hey, I gave it the best shot, I tried my very best, and then I mean, sometimes you might be able to play a lot of cricket. Sometimes you play little less cricket, or whatever it is you do in life. I mean, sometimes you need a bit of luck. Things need to fall in place. I mean, you can't escape the fact that, I mean, at least I am pretty sure that I had a lot of luck in my life as well. I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. I was lucky in a lot of ways. Yes, I worked hard, and no doubt about it. I worked hard. I practiced a lot, and I did it. But yeah, I know a lot of people who work hard and who practice a lot. But sometimes, things just don't work out. It's sometimes natural gifts or a bit of luck, or it just happens. So I think you can't compare yourself with other people. In the end of the day, it's your journey, and just be the best that you can be. I think for me, that's success. And being happy with what you've done and what you've achieved is I think success. It's not about comparing yourself to the next man, or the other person, really. I was just to answer, yeah. So like when I was saying that, you fail, you actually do fail a lot more than you succeed in cricket. I mean, in batting, generally you're failing a lot more. If you consider even a 50 as a success point, you don't cross 50 in majority of your innings. So you do learn to fail a lot in cricket, and I think you get, we experience, as batsmen, we experience failure. Even a 50 average guy, as someone who averages 50 in international cricket, has failed a lot more, has failed more times than he has actually succeeded. So yeah, so it's just a truth. It was just a statement.
If you were to pick out three qualities for somebody to excel, what would they be?
Three qualities. I'd say perseverance is important. I think whatever you choose to do, you've really got to be able to persevere in it. You've got to be able to recognize that there is a certain amount of pain and difficulty in the learning process, in the journey, and being able to persevere through those ups and downs, I think is a very, very important skill. The other thing I'd say is, I think, an inquisitiveness and a desire to constantly learn and get better, to constantly improve. I think it's curiosity, inquisitiveness, whatever you may call it, a desire to constantly improve your skills or your abilities. I think is very, very important. And then the last one I'd say is balance. I mean, you need to be able to be balanced whether it's through success or failure, and not get too, not ride. So it's not like a wave, right? You can't be up when you're succeeding and very down when you're low. You've got to be able to keep that balance and that maturity. So yeah, so if you want a consistent career, I think in sport or in anything else, I mean, at least for me, I'd say sort of perseverance and inquisitiveness, a curiosity, and and then just the balance to understand life. I mean, success, failure, it's part of it, and to be able to manage that, it's I think probably three things that come to the top of my head. You know.
Test cricket was back recently in England. Very, very subdued celebrations. No saliva on the ball. Fast bowlers still showing, what they are capable of doing. Did you watch it? Did you see the subtle changes that were evident?
I watched parts of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did, yeah. And especially the last day. I thought the last day was building up to be a really exciting day. So I watched a large part of the last day when when West Indies were chasing 200, and England had to sort of get them out. So yeah, and it was great performance by the West Indies. I thought it was terrific. I mean, I think Jason Holder hit the nail on the head when he said that last evening when they got 5 wickets for 30 runs was actually what won them the Test match. It was at the end of a long day to be able to put in that kind of performance from your fast bowlers, and because it looked at one stage with Stokes and I think Crawley batting that the game was sort of drifting away from the West Indies, but they really pulled the game back. And I think the end of a long day like that to have that level of concentration, to have that level of intensity, and it was a credit to the West Indies and truly deserving win. I think for them, they played some tough cricket, played some good cricket, and not least of all, someone like Blackwood showing that he's not just a one-trick pony. He can bat in different ways, and I think something like this will give him a lot of confidence and just his own belief in terms of that I can bat like this in the fourth innings. I can win a game for my country, and I think no bigger feeling than that. And something that hopefully he can carry on. But it was just nice to watch Test cricket again. To be honest, it was just nice to be able to watch the game, and we've been starved of it for so long that even though there were no spectators and stuff, it was still nice to watch. And it did seem like it was more challenging for the bowlers because there wasn't as much of swing on display. And I think that was reflected in, I think they're able to calculate how much the ball swings, and I think it was reflected in the calculations that the ball wasn't swinging as much. So yeah, it was a little bit more of a challenge for the bowlers, but we still got a result in 4 days, so which is great. It's great for the game.
Finally, what advice would you give people to tide over this pandemic and the difficulties they're going through?
Well, I just think it's. I think the important thing is going to have to be patience, and understanding that. I just think our whole role in this in society, and it's not. This is not just about us. I think it's becoming more and more clear that every one of our actions is actually affecting a lot of other people. So if you go out without a mask, or if you don't observe social distancing, or if you go out when you've got a fever or you're sick, it's not only about you and it's not your difficulties, but you can affect other people. And I think recognizing that you have a role to play in this, in ensuring that this pandemic, we get over it or get through the other side quicker. We all can play a small part, and I think that's really an important message that I would like to give to people. Just be responsible, and I think having patience, and I think just being able to find things to do even when you're finding that you're not able to do the say if you're not able to play the game, or you're not able to practice, or you're not able to train. There are other ways in which you can develop your personality, or develop something that will help you when you come out of the pandemic, that should help you in your sport, whether it's a good time to develop stuff like focus and concentration, and learn a new skill in a time like this. So yeah, as we slowly getting out of the lockdown and we're sort of getting into some form of what is the new normal, I think people firstly need to be aware of the fact that they have a big role to play in how we come out of this situation and how we come out of this pandemic. Walking out and thinking everything is going to be back to normal is, I think, unrealistic, and recognizing that we all have a role to play.
Thanks a lot, Rahul, for your time and for your patience. It was great chatting to you.
Thanks,
and I wish
WB.
you all
Thanks a
the
lot.
best in the
Pleasure.
future. Hope to see you soon in person.
Thanks, WB. Pleasure's mine. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. There it was from Rahul Dravid. He said that all of us have to take responsibility and help each other in tiding over this crisis. It's not going to go away on its own. And that's it from me tonight. I'll catch up with you over the week It'll be next Tuesday. It'll be at the same time. Until then, stay safe, keep well, and good night.